Hello, my name is Madison Lemons. This is my final project for ESCI 302 Spring Semester 2018. In this course, we learned about environmental education. Before taking this class, I had many assumptions about environmental education, but I didn't actually know a lot about the subject. I really thought that it only included such things as outdoor survival, scientific classifications, learning about wilderness, and ways to save the planet. After having taken ESCI 302, I have come to learn that there are many different aspects that go into environmental education. During this presentation, I will be discussing the many philosophies and ideas that we learned this past semester. The text that we used for class, Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, was very effective for me throughout the class. Kimmerer's idea of braiding different ways of thinking together was a new and interesting concept for me. I appreciate her learning and accepting different ways of thinking and connecting to the earth by reciprocity. This model is something that I would like to use in my future classroom. We've talked a lot about anthropocentrism during the semester. I had no idea what it meant prior to taking this class, but now I think about the concept a lot in my daily life. Our society has a Euro-Western history and is very human-centered. I feel like environmental education helps to disrupt this notion. All of the different philosophies that we discussed in class can help broaden our minds and will hopefully help us to disrupt the notion of anthropocentrism, not only in our society, but in environmental education as well. Throughout the semester, we've discussed embodying environmental education. To me, this means understanding different philosophies and ways to incorporate environmental education into our classrooms. You can see some of these philosophies here. One that I've thoroughly enjoyed was the idea of free air life. It is easily applied into a classroom setting because we can take kids outside for a lesson, or even practice stillness in nature like we did with Audrey during our class. As David Orr said, all education is environmental education. For me, embodying environmental education also means finding ways to disrupt climate change, as we saw in the documentary Before the Flood, and in many wonderful presentations in class. There are a lot of ways to disrupt climate change. Simple things like air drying your clothes, eating less meat, or even buying reusable plastic straws can reduce your carbon emissions and interrupt climate change. These ideas seen here can easily be brought into the classroom as well. I wrote about many different ways to disrupt climate change in my second blog post. These little things like shopping at the farmer's market, using reusable bags, and recycling are easy steps to include into a classroom of any grade. This is a simple way to incorporate environmental education into everyday classroom life without the typical idea of just going outside. But the thing I think is the most important to take away from ESCI 302 is that we cannot have environmental education without Indigenous ways of knowing. Indigenous peoples have been on Turtle Island for thousands of years. First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples see the land as their home and not as something to be tamed. This notion did not appear until the European settlers colonized what is now Canada. As stated in Newberry's canoe pedagogy, the space that settlers might call wilderness is also thought of as home, the backyard, or even the pantry. I spoke of these ideas versus Canadian narratives in the third blog post that we did. Here are some Canadian narratives about the outdoors. I believe that we must disrupt these narratives of wilderness. We can do this by educating ourselves and our students on environmental issues with a non-human-centered view. Incorporating environmental education with an Indigenous way of knowing into our future classrooms will hopefully help break down the ideas of wilderness that were formed by Euro-Western ways of thinking. Thank you for watching my presentation and have a great summer.